I want to start this episode off fast. Remember when your dad said that if he could have all of his toenails gone, he would do that?
What?
Remember we
No.
were talking about my toenail?
And he
He was like, if I could have all my toenails gone, that would be awesome.
like that's like his hindrance in life.
Yes.
Is the toenails.
Who wants all their toenails gone?
You're like, oh, I can only dream of him. What is one thing on your body that you could like not do without? Like girls have so much more options with that. Like I think of like shaving. Like you can get lasers so that it's gone forever. Or like Carly with the LASIK thing. Like something that is a to do.
I would probably do that, LASIK.
The LASIK.
Yeah, LASIK. I don't know. I can't grow any good facial hair, so then maybe that. Like,
So you just never have it?
Yeah, just never having to deal with it.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, the hair removal stuff. I don't really have anything else that I can think of that's like a to do.
I mean, definitely not get rid of my toenails.
Yeah, that doesn't really stop me.
I wonder what his
day to
logic
day.
was with that. We moved past that way too quickly.
But I feel like I don't know. Maybe
Aaron, comment below.
Yeah, comment below your crazy toenail focus. I think maybe vitamin deficiency is happening more than normal because not only is my hair falling out per usual, but my eyelashes have been falling out kind of aggressively.
You think it's the sauna?
Oh, that's interesting. They're burning off.
I don't know. See you later, hair.
I don't know. I just brought that up on the walk. Like, I wonder if being in the sauna will start to damage my hair because of how hot it is, if it has like a heat issue.
I think things also happen, and then all of a sudden you start focusing on it, and then it just seems like it's happening all the time, when in reality it's probably been happening, and you don't even have any idea that it's happening. It's just when you start paying attention to it, you're all of a sudden like, oh my God.
Well, it's more like the eyelashes. They keep getting in my eye, and I'm noticing I'm having to like go to the mirror and see what's in my eye. And I'm having like multiple eyelashes around my eye to where I don't really usually get that.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I don't know. I'm finding eyelashes on your face all the time. You
Maybe
just have
they
a lot of
fall out.
wishes that you can make come true.
That's true.
It's so easy to make you happy. You just bring up kid stuff.
Oh, that's so funny. Man, there was something that I was going to bring up that I thought about yesterday, which is a little bit more, it was not like super surface level, so I don't know if you want to get into it, but I think it was something, of course I don't have my notebook. It was something about, because I was watching the communication podcast, and he talked about how with a lot of his students, like we can all talk about things that we need to change, but we don't do a lot of implementing these things. And it kind of made me think about how much knowledge is out there for people to learn. It's like we have this podcast to hopefully teach people things or whatever. And then we also like to learn through podcasts and learn through research and reading things. But then because there is so much, do we not implement it as much? Maybe there's no correlation there at all. Or kind of like, does the information become useless when there's such an abundance, but there's not action?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something. Like, I think there's so much like teaching available and information that you can take in, but now we're kind of in a place where it's like you learn a whole bunch of stuff, but then all it is you learned that stuff. And then there is no application. It's like we could do that with this podcast and the stuff that we talk about, or I don't know, any informational podcast that you're doing. And I don't know how informational ours is all the time, but like you're just taking in all of this stuff, all of this knowledge, but then you're not doing anything with it. It's like if you were to listen to a health and fitness podcast, and it's like you may know a lot of the things that you're supposed to do and how to gain muscle, lose weight, whatever, but you still just sit on the couch and don't go do it. I think that's where we're at with a lot of stuff, especially with like the rise in podcasts, is everybody's so more informational and educated, but then it's like nobody's doing it. Nobody's applying any of that stuff because it probably is like so much information overload, paralysis of analysis, that sort of thing. But I think people also take pride in knowing a lot of stuff, but it's that action that's never then taken with that knowledge.
That's where I wonder if people think this about me, if I'm doing this, but I really try to focus on if I'm going to be preaching something, it's something that I have a behavior to show up with. Because when I see that in others, I'm like, oh, you're phony.
Yeah.
Like, you're all talk, but there's no way you'd be able to implement that, or you don't know. Like, you're talking like you haven't had the experience to understand the objective of like what people that do behave that way, what their life looks like, or what their other behaviors surrounding that look like, to like build up that person to where I hope I'm on track with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
But
inevitable that
I think that's where you can tell who's kind of
Yeah, well, there's like the egregious characters that do it all the time with everything, and then there's subtle ones where it's like you maybe step out of your lane a little bit, and it's you're suggesting or giving advice to people, and you don't actually take those actions or do that stuff. I think it's inevitable that that will happen occasionally, but I think having an awareness of it and trying not to do that all the time is obviously better than just letting it run rampant. Because we all know people that it's like, oh, they're just a know-it-all. Like, they have an opinion on every single conversation. They have to have an input on everything, even when it's something that they're maybe talking to somebody that is more knowledgeable about the subject, but somehow they're trying to claim that they know about it, and their their communication about it is almost acting like they know more than that person, than that expert. It's like, you got to kind of know your place here, that you don't know what you're talking about compared to the expert. But it's challenging because you also don't know sometimes how smart this person is. So you think you're just having a conversation with them, but in reality, they're like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. It's like you're talking to somebody about real estate, and you have no idea that this person like does a lot of work in real estate or has bought like 6 different houses. He knows the process, and you're like, well, did you do this though? Did you do that? And this guy's like, you don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, especially if it's in a field that you don't know a lot about. I guess I was only thinking about communicating with people that we have like interests. Like if it's like someone brings up fitness or eating a certain way, their diet that they're on, it's hard for me to not immediately like analyze their every move after that, because I'm trying to almost feel out who is scheming me. That like I am very observant with people, maybe to a fault where it's like annoying, but I'm way more based off of the actions than people's words.
Oh yeah, I think as everybody should be.
But moving in with that, with like the knowledge versus application, I think that's a good rule to do just in life with whatever you're trying to work on, is like do 1 or 2 things at a time until it becomes like that habit. Because otherwise we could just information. I think that's kind of what the regular school system plays out, is like you're just trying to learn enough to do well on this worksheet or this homework or this test, but they're not really like embodying the information to be able to understand how it applies to grander concepts or like their life. How do they use this knowledge of history in their day to day as a whatever grade? That I think we still have the ability to do that when we get older and we can learn things. But if we don't have that practicing of the pattern, it kind of goes nowhere. Like things that I feel like I learn the most or I have understood on a deeper level is because I'm able to implement it into my life regularly. Like fitness is one of those things because it was so constant that I was able to learn faster and learn deeper to where there are some things where I'm like, oh yeah, remember when I was into that for 2 seconds? But like I couldn't retain any of the information now because I didn't use it.
Well, I think I feel like everybody that I come across, there's a conversation about like how you learn. Almost everybody seems like they learn better hands-on stuff rather than just like, oh, I'm great at just taking notes and then remembering that or going back and studying. I feel like a large portion of people learn by doing the stuff. And then like what you're saying, I think having that sort of process, you're able to learn it like deeper, and it's because you're going through the trials and errors of it and the experiments and whatever. There's this divide in like podcasts or whatever too, which is I think is why we like Mind Pump, because they're 3 trainers, they've trained people, and they get upset with other podcasts where people are talking about health and fitness that have never trained anybody, because it's like, you can give me all the science and all the like cool hype shit of how to build more muscle and do all that kind of stuff, but you've never actually trained people. You don't know the behaviors. You don't know how to get them to keep coming back to the gym. You don't know what the difficult things are that involve actually going to the gym. So when these like science experts about fitness are talking all the time about what the regular general population should be doing, the people who have trained people are kind of like, you don't know what you're talking about, because you're talking about like doing drop sets and like length and partials and all this like scientific stuff that builds more muscle, but you've never trained somebody to realize like they're not going to do that stuff. They're not going to want to do that stuff. They're not going to keep coming back. They're not going to like it. That's not, it's like the application of the science doesn't really end up working, to where I think when you are hands-on and learning that way, you're learning how it actually happens. It's like going to school for your job, and then you get into your job and you're like, okay, all the school stuff, like what was good for it was maybe learning terminology. But then when I actually go apply this stuff, the application of how we're doing everything is much different than what we were kind of told or taught in school. It's like a whole other base that you have to do and learn. And that's actually the actionable stuff that you're doing. So it's like you can have all this knowledge and read all the science books, but you won't really understand the depth to everything unless you're applying it and actually doing it.
That's where I think my sister did great with nursing school, because she was a CNA for so many years before that. So all of the stuff that they're teaching in school, she's had hands-on, on-the-job experience doing, and she's able. That was kind of like how it was with learning how to drive. Like,
totally
learning how to drive, then taking driver's ed. When you can picture yourself in the scenario, or like with my sister, she had plenty of times where she was maybe doing things outside of what she was taught at that time because they needed help. They needed people. So she was stepping in these major roles and able to see hands-on, okay, when I'm with this person, this is how they handle this. When I'm with this type of person, this is how they handle this. And you get such a variety of experience as well, that you are sensory learning, that then when you go and take it to a textbook, now when you're talking about putting an IV in someone, you're picturing it. You're thinking about that person that you did it with, the conversations that you had, that it like, I think a lot of it's like because you're gaining the senses with the knowledge.
Yeah, totally. Well, and it's you're also having to be flexible in the areas of your job. You know, it's like if somebody comes in, and I listen to all the expert scientists saying like squats for leg development and leg press and all this kind of stuff, and they come in, they're like, yeah, my left knee I just had replaced. And it's like, I can't really squat without it hurting. Well, now what are you going to do? Mm-hmm. It's like all your textbooks say you got to squat and leg press and do all this kind of stuff, but I got a person that has a knee replacement, can't do that. Or how many people come in with lower back pain and all the stuff that's beneficial for strengthening the lower back, it hurts them. It's like, so what are you going to do? You have to be flexible, and you have to have that experience of actually being in the job, doing the thing, in order to, you know, think on your feet and adjust things and whatever. It can't just be the textbooks that you read. You know, it's like we both did the NASM certification for personal training, and it was like, this is all terminology, and then they give like their thing of how to train people, basically, of starting with, I don't even remember what it was anymore. I think it was like,
you like start with an assessment with them.
well, an assessment, but I'm talking about like that pyramid they had. It was like, you know, muscle endurance, hypertrophy, maximal strength, whatever. And it's like, okay, great.
So that's one prototype of a person.
Exactly. And it's like, what if I have an athlete come in? We're not going to start with muscle endurance. They probably already have a ginormous base of, you know, activity and strength and all that kind of stuff. And what's going to make them better is not doing this pyramid style thing. So it's like the textbooks just don't always apply to the real world application. And I feel like people listening or watching probably in their own job feel the same way about like, yeah, we learned a bunch of stuff before, or I went to school for this stuff, but when you're actually doing the work, it's so specialized even to each job. It's like, I'm a nurse at this hospital and they do it this way, but then when I went over to this hospital, they maybe did it a slightly different for different reasons. And it's just, you're not going to learn that in a textbook or at school.
Yeah. Well, that kind of goes back to that breakdown of the origin of discipline. Like, discipline, I think, can be skewed in so many different ways of how you look at it. It could be, you know, you're disciplining from behavior, like you're having a consequence. It could be you're gaining that behavior yourself, that you have consistency and stability in something. But then a discipline is also like a thing that like I think of a dancer, like your discipline is this.
Yeah.
To where it's like, this is something that you have ingrained into your behavior or your style or your repertoire, that this is your thing. That, going back to I think it was like the discere faciendo meaning, where it's like to learn by doing. I think that ties back into what I'm saying of, you can hear all of the stuff, but unless you implement it, you are not going to be able to fully learn and fully develop that skill, because you're also not having that individual variance to be able to observe how are you in that situation.
Well, you're also not going to know how you react in those situations.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you can tell a football player, okay, on this play, you got to do this, that, and whatever. And then they're like, okay, cool, got it. And then when they go do it, they don't do any of that.
Right.
It's like, you, because of whatever situation or circumstances. And it's like, no, when he cuts this way, you have to turn your body this way. You can't turn the other way. That's something for defensive backs. It's like, you have to turn the right way for it to be the most effective. And if you're not doing that, like, you're going to be behind the ball. That's like, if you can't continuously turn the wrong way, you're always going to be behind the ball and you're always going to get it wrong. But it's like, you have to practice that to drill it into your mind, to have the behavior of, when he turns this way, I turn that way. It's the same with like ballet. When you're that far along in ballet, it's not something that you consciously have to think of to point your toe. You have the discipline now of doing that without thinking. It becomes second nature. But it's like, I could tell all the dancers, point your toe on this, point your toe on this, and none of them do it because they don't have that discipline. They haven't practiced doing it.
That's another thing with gaining new skills, and whether we're like specifically talking about fitness, I think is an easy one because it's so broad spectrum, but you're trying to gather information to create a new behavior, whether that's like, you want to be a better parent, or you want to be better cooking, you want to be, 30 pounds lighter or whatever. I don't know if it's a society thing, if like it's spread through parenting or through teachers, but we also are not we're not taking pride in the failing of it. Like, to me, that's like, again, the learn by doing is you have to learn where you mess up in these ways, or like where the information doesn't translate to you. Like, we teach kids, so we teach a variety of different learners. And I think if we don't allow them to fail, then that growth is so limited because they're not able to see like, where is their own, adversity. to where I think even with adults and ourselves, we don't see the value in messing up. Like I take the fitness thing, like me doing this new program. I want it to be perfect the first time I run it. Like I want to push myself the right amount. I want to do the correct amount of volume. I want to be able to, every time I go in there, choose the perfect amount of weight so that every rep and every set is prime. It's like, okay, yeah, but then I have nowhere to go from there. It could be like, great, then I just replicate it. That's perfect. But
that's also just never going to happen, though.
Yeah.
That's not realistic.
To where then the failing, am I not allowing that to be a growth opportunity because I'm just like, well, that's just, my standard isn't perfect then.
Well, and a lot of people deal with failure differently. They either give up or they make excuses about it. They accept it and are able to move along. Like there's a lot of different ways that people handle that kind of stuff. I don't know. Like I think there's a lot of talk about like, don't be afraid to fail and it's okay to fail. Failing's good. That's how you learn, all that kind of stuff. But I think it's like we have that knowledge, but then when we go and actually fail, we don't know how to handle that and deal with that. That there's not much of a conversation around ways to try to handle the failure. It's just, it's okay. It's okay that you failed. And it's like, okay, but you take somebody like me.
That's
like,
what I was going to say.
There's no fucking way I'm going to be like, yeah, it's okay that I failed. Like, no, that's not how my brain is wired. That's not how I move along and get past that. Like, so that, I don't know, that kind of advice or that idea doesn't really work for me. Like I have to go into very analytical mind of like, okay, why did you fail? What are the things that you think happened that made it so that it was a failure? What can you do differently next time to make it so it's not a failure? Like I can't do the just like, oh, it's fine, because that just sits with me. And then even after the analytical part, it's like, I don't like that I failed. So I continue to think about how to not fail and how to make it better next time. There's not just this like blanket, like, oh yeah, people say it's okay to fail, so I failed. And then that's it. And then you go repeat the same thing over and over again, and then you keep failing. But it's like we have students too, like one in particular that she doesn't like failing or losing the game, or like she takes it hard. And that's how I was. So I can relate to it. But then there's other kids that it's like, they could give two shits if they failed or not.
Yeah.
And probably a majority of them. It's like, they don't care. And I don't know if it's a culture thing of they've grown up in the everybody gets a trophy type of attitude, or this idea of like, it's okay that you failed. Failing's normal. Failing's okay. It's like, it is. Like, you can fail and that's fine. But the steps after that should be, how do I not fail again? How do I get to the success part of it, to where that's just not, I don't know, that's not pushed as much. It's like we have the good thing of it's okay to fail, but we need the secondary thing of, or the next sentence should be like, so how do we make sure we don't do that again? And we don't really have that.
Where do you think you developed that?
I don't know, like the household was competitive, sports was super competitive, like it was about winning. I don't know, like it just, maybe even just to me too, like it's the classic thing, but like how people say like they hate losing more than they like winning. That's true for me. Like I do not like losing. Now, as I've gotten older, it's like you figure out what things matter and don't matter. It's like, if I lose at fantasy football, who gives a shit? I don't really care. Would I rather win? Yeah, of course. But I'm not going to let it beat me up all day long or all week. And then like, I need to figure out how to build the best lineup and trade for the right people and do all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. It's interesting too, because like I feel like my brother Corey doesn't really have that. Like he doesn't seem like he really cares about, and even growing up, I don't think he really cared that much about it. Like I told you the story of in high school, like he was throwing at practice and the coach came up to him and said, like, you have the worst throwing form ever. And he never played football again.
It's like, that's fine.
I was like, oh, okay. I have the worst throwing form. See you later.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care enough
Must
about
not be
this.
for me then.
I don't care enough about this to deal with this guy. Like, it's just not worth my time. To where, like, if that was me, I would be pissed and then I would be doing everything I can to prove him wrong. But it's also, I cared about that sport. Now, if it was something that he cared about more, he probably would have that attitude as well. But I don't know. He just doesn't seem like he cares that much about like winning. That seems so ridiculous.
The thought of that like seems immature, almost.
Yeah, it's like, why do you care? It's a sport, or it's a game, or it's a
I think
thing.
when we had him on the podcast, we talked about that. Like, he doesn't have that edge to him.
Well, and he
but
said,
I think
like,
he still strives to be good. Like, I think he strives for success and achievements and to be, you know, productive in his own way. But I think, yeah, like, he doesn't have that blindness to, like, this doesn't matter. Like, it seems like he just doesn't waste his time with things that don't matter.
He has a very good sense of that. And we get very
confused with that.
Yeah, he's got a very good sense of what matters to him and what he cares about, and that's what he's going to care about. Like,
yeah.
To where, for me, I'm like, if I don't win at this ping pong match, I'm going to need to have thoughts about it afterwards.
Which I think there are positives to both, because I think in the one route, he also doesn't have, and I talking about family members when they're not here, just thank you guys for giving us your life. But like, he doesn't seem like he has the clutter, like the brain. Like, he doesn't have that. I'm ruminating all day on this conversation that happened, or what this person thinks of me because I made this choice, or am I doing good in this avenue? Like, it just seems like he has his own opinion, and it's like, that's what he's rolling with. So then all this other stuff, like the affinity football, is like, if I care about that, you should care about it too.
Sure.
He's so like firm in his beliefs, and I think that in a way that can be positive because it seems so simple. Like, some people are just good at, like, I'm not going to challenge my thought process. Like, I'm just going to, this is what it is, and I'm going to ride with that. Well, but then I think there's also a positive to what you do.
But I don't think it's necessarily that. I think he probably has thought a lot about all of those things, but that's the answer he continues to come to. And until something comes along that's a better answer or a better opinion, this is what I'm going to roll with.
I'd be surprised if he ruminates on it, though.
No, probably not ruminate.
Like, does he think about, like, what do I think about this? Yeah, I think about it. That's my thought. I don't think he's, like, I don't see him as, like, someone to ponder anything.
No, I don't.
Like, this is my thought.
I don't think I'm that way, though, really, either. I don't sit and think about stuff of, like, what's my opinion about all this kind of thing? It's like, it's kind of just there, and until it gets shifted or somebody has a better idea about it, like, this is where I'm going to stand pat. I just don't, I don't really, I don't let people know that that's what I think, though, a lot of the time. Like, I was just kind of like, have a conversation with somebody and I don't know. I've always wanted to just be mysterious and people not know what's going on with me. Mm-hmm. So I don't tend to give a whole lot of opinions or whatever in certain social situations because I don't care for them to know what I think about stuff. And I also don't want them to be putting me in a certain box or situation, which I know your argument, it's the same argument you have every single time, which is, but they're going to do that anyway. And because you didn't say your opinion, they're going to think that you agree with them. And then they're going to roll with that and say like, well, Chaney agrees with me on this. And it's like, no, I actually don't. I just didn't tell you anything about what I think about it. But they can have that. Like, I don't care. To where it's like,
Yeah.
I'm very much well, I'll talk to me about it. And I don't know, if we get to a point socially where I'm going to give you my opinions about stuff, then you'll know my opinions. But otherwise, like, I don't need you to know anything about me.
What do you think that is with me? Do you think it's like goes back to the needing justice thing? Or because, so again, going back to the communication podcast, he brought up like with conversating with people using the improv technique of like the yes and. Just like whatever they say, yes and them and continue on with the story or whatever they're talking about. Mm-hmm. To where I'm like, majority of the time I'm doing no, and this is why.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You are not a yes-ander at all. Even if you agree with the person, you will still be like, yeah, but what about this? And it's like, you agree. Why are you having to, like, you want the confrontation about it?
Why do I do that?
Because you're an asshole. I don't know. I don't know why you do that. I don't, because I think I am very yes and that's probably why people think that I agree with them all the time about stuff.
Yeah, and then they bring it up to me and I'm like, oh, you have no idea.
Well, because I'm just like furthering their thought process about it. I'm like, I can see where these things can be true as we continue along. It's not really what I think, but
I know. Why does that seem so dangerous to me?
I also think I'm a little bit better about like, I don't know, though. So it's like, maybe you are right. Maybe you should do
I
that.
don't know.
Maybe you should eat all processed foods and sit on the couch and not do anything.
Okay, so maybe I'm just way more confident in my opinion a lot of the times. Because, like, there will be times where we're talking to someone together and I want to be like, chime in.
I know.
Like, that's crazy what they're saying, right? But I don't have the information enough to
No, it's about health
talk
and
to them
health
about
and fitness stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, it's got to stem from something in my development that I'm like that. But to a point where I don't like what you do, even though I think like logically that's just so much better because you're just like flowing with people versus like eat is what I do. But for some reason, it computes in my head like I'm giving you a point. Like you're chalking that up to another person is validating that opinion. Another person is validating that opinion. That I think like I'm allowing that person to get.
You're enabling them.
Enabling that, and I'm allowing them to get more confused, and it's which a lot of the time it's like it doesn't matter. They maybe don't even care what I think. Anyways, they probably don't. They probably just I'm coming at them in a way that they're maybe going to be defensive because of it. But when it's stuff where it's like the health or the fitness or their behaviors and relationships, I feel so strongly about those things that I feel like, yeah, I'm enabling a bad behavior that's not going to make their life better when I know better.
Well, and that's the problem is you think you know the right answer.
Yeah. As soon as I said it, I was like, he's going to come back with this.
So it's like, maybe you don't. And also for me, I don't want to talk to somebody. I don't want to invoke the defensiveness, the argument, the debate. Like, I have no interest in doing that. So yeah. If you saying like, oh, I ate really well this week and I ate this, well, I had some of this and I had some of that. And, well, I guess we did go do this and I ended up eating this and blah, blah. And but like, yeah, but I actually did pretty good. I'm not the person that's going to be like, you did terrible, actually. You know how you say you want to lose weight all the time? Like, all of the things you just mentioned is why you're not losing weight. I just am not that. Because then I don't want to deal with the defensiveness. I don't want to deal with the the debative or confrontational argument. I hate confrontation. I don't want to deal with any of that.
Yeah. So what do you think your role is in those conversations, whether you think you have one or not? But like, say that example, or like something where like people come to you for fitness and health advice, or maybe not even advice, but they're talking about it with you for some reason. That could be a variety of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
What is your, not game plan, because maybe that seems weird and manipulative, but like, say that, like say that's a made up conversation that you're having with some random person. What's your approach that in even though like you're a liar, or like, come on, we're not on the same page with this.
Keep the peace. Like, I don't want confrontation. I don't want negative vibes going on. Like, I don't want, for me, I dealt with too much of that growing up with my siblings and my dad, whether it was I was a part of it or seeing it. And I just hate it. I hate it so much when people are fighting and arguing and debating, because both of you are stupid. You're not understanding or seeing the bigger picture of it, I guess. Like, the way that it's approached always was negative to me. It just is like, you both are trying to be the one that's right, and I don't want to deal with that. Like, I'm not here to be the one that's right, or to tell you, you know, this is actually what it is and this is how it should be and all that kind of shit. Like, I hate that stuff so much. So I don't want to be that person now going into the conversations. And I also don't want to be in I hate confrontation. I don't want to confront people. I don't want to make people feel bad. I don't want to cause them to be defensive. So I'm like, sit back, keep the peace, throw some jokes in there, keep it light, and like move the conversation along. Hopefully there's a moment or time where there is something that I can say that is helpful or gives value, but isn't confronting and isn't like being rude to them. And that's why probably doing the podcast is good for me, because I can say my opinions and I can say how I feel about it without the confrontation of people.
Well, and in a way, I think that's easier for the listener as well. Like, that's what I think podcasts are great for, is they're not direct.
Yeah.
So like, you can hear a podcast talking about all of these bad behaviors that we have as humans and just go like, okay, this could apply to me. But it's not your sibling in front of you going like, this sucks about you.
Yeah. Now,
but you could still hear you say it, or whatever, you know, whatever random person is listening. Like,
now when I'm teaching, I'm extremely confrontational.
You have to be.
Like,
because kids are the opposite. They think nothing is about them.
Yeah, but even like training adults, I'm not going to let you do this form incorrectly.
Oh, sure.
But if they're asking me about food and health stuff and whatever, like, I'm trying to dance a little bit without being confrontational, insulting, and that sort of thing. Like, if they come in, they're like, yeah, I had like 6 drinks last night and, you know, ate a bunch of cake or whatever, and be like, oh, wow. All right. And then I'm like, all right, we're doing squats or we're doing this. And then I'm on them, correcting them on the form and doing all of that. Like, that for some reason doesn't seem confrontational, because it's so objective, I guess, of just like, this is what we're doing and this is how you're supposed to do it and all that kind of stuff. And then if they were like, well, I saw that this was how we do it, this, like, I saw a different way to do it, you know, what about that? I feel like I can approach that with a non-confrontational way. But with the health and stuff, like, people are just, in my experience, they're so sensitive to it. For some reason. For some reason, people have this idea, like, they know how to eat or what's healthy or what they should be consuming and and it's like, where are you getting this information? But when people go to exercise, they don't have that same confidence for some reason.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Maybe it's because everyone eats. So, like, I've been doing this since I was a baby.
Yeah.
Like, I probably had this figured out. It's just food.
And, like, everybody fucking knows somebody that ate this way and lost this much weight and whatever. It's like everybody has an example of somebody doing something successfully. And it's like, okay, but then why isn't it working for you, or why aren't you doing it, or I don't know. But again, like, I'm not good at that confrontational part of it. That's why I've enjoyed just training more athletes and doing that sort of thing, because it's like, this is very kind of right or wrong, but not, I guess not always that, but it's in more of my comfort zone.
It's in a lane you understand of how to approach every topic. Like, with kids, it's easier to decide what they need. Because, like, as the adult, we kind of should hold that responsibility. Is they don't necessarily know what's good for them, that we need to have enough awareness and education to understand how to help them. That's like adults. There's so much more there. I think that you could still strip it away. Like, everyone kind of needs the same stuff. They all need a version of support. They need a version of push. They need a version of education to help. But that gets so much more slippery, because as you get older, you start to branch off into these prototypes to where a lot of kids fit in the same prototype.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know. I think some of it might be just an age thing too, of everybody that I've trained besides kids is generally older than me. So there's already that, like, well, this is just a young kid. You haven't had to deal with the stuff that I've dealt with.
How
so
many
what do you
times
know?
do you hear that? Oh, just wait.
Well, and I'm the youngest in my family. So it's like, that's just how I've grown up my whole life, is I'm the youngest. I don't know the stuff yet. Wait and see. And then now I go train people, and it's the same shit. Like, oh, you don't understand, this and that, and how hard it is when you have kids, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, there's truth to that. I don't. But at the same time, like, that doesn't take away from the fact that I know what I'm talking about, and you should be doing these things.
And I also know why you got there and you don't.
Yeah, and they maybe do, but they're like, well, you just wait until you have kids. Like, it's not as easy as you think it is. And it's like, I know it's not easy. That's why.
That's why I'm going to do this and this.
That's why I'm trying to tell you what to do. But then with kids, it's like, I am older, so I already have that authority figure thing because of age. So there isn't that, like, they can't tell me, like, well, you don't understand. It's like, no, I already did middle school. I know what middle school is.
Yeah, granted, the farther away that you get from that, there are a little bit of things where you are disconnected from that world, that kids nowadays are dealing with different things. Like, I was thinking about that as I was falling asleep last night. Like, how with kids with their phones, and like when they're in class, they're not allowed to have them or to be on them. It's like, is that a little bit of like, we're pulling them away from their addiction?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't have any compassion towards that, but like, no. I'm like, should I? Like, they're jonesing for their phone when they're in class. This is something that's been allowed in every other way. Like, at school, they can be on their phones and text and whatever. And then at home, they're on it all the time.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm ripping you away from this thing that you're like,
yeah, but they need to.
I know they need to, but I was like, oh, I didn't really ever think about it from that point of view.
Yeah.
It's like, are their behaviors affected because they are so like focused on the phone, or like feeling that withdrawal?
Oh yeah, I bet.
That their behaviors are funky
they don't know
because
what to do
of
with
that.
themselves. I think that's actually partially a reason why people probably don't go to the movies anymore.
It's too much dedicated to one thing.
It's that, like, withdrawal from their phone. That's like, it's taboo to have your phone or open your phone in a movie, and also like when you can at home be on your phone while the movie's on the whole time, to where it's like you would probably get told by somebody to not do that at the movies. But yeah, you're like locked in for this hour and a half, 2.5 hour movie. And it's also like $10 for popcorn's ridiculous. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. Who was I just listening to that was talking about that? Oh, Bert. The episode with Bert and his dad. His dad said it used to be like 50 cents to go to a movie and like 25 cents for popcorn. It's like people can't afford the movies anymore because it's
that's why they don't.
$10 ticket, a $10 soda, $10 popcorn.
That's why that stuff is more expensive, because no one goes to the movies. So they're like, well, we have to make a profit.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think
I'm not saying
somewhat,
it's correct, but it's just like,
but they also,
I guess
they also make their money off the concessions. So they've completely jacked those up because they're not making much money off of the ticket. They're making it off the concessions. I know, but they don't have to. They're not dying to. I mean, my thought is they did that before people stopped going to the movies. And that's a reason why people don't go to the movies anymore.
Got it. Okay.
Like,
to where I'm thinking it's the reverse.
And who knows who's right? I don't know. But I don't know. It's just like, can't you see that this business is not working? Like, this business style is not working. Change it. That's why all of them now, it's like, you can have dinner here. It's like they just keep pushing the food shit because that's where they're going to make the money.
Yeah.
They're not going to make it off the ticket.
Okay. Rapid fire questions. Fitness related, most likely. What are, maybe just do a couple. Let's not do numbers. Debunking fitness myths. What are the first ones that come to your head?
Cardio is the way to lose weight.
Okay. One of mine is the classic, like if you lift any sort of weight, you're going to get jacked. Like if you lift weight and not do cardio, you're going to bulk.
Yeah, especially for females. Like, I don't want to get bulky.
Yeah.
I feel like that one's going away.
I do too. As I was saying, I was like, I feel like that nonsense is out the window a little bit. Because I think also it's becoming more popular for females to be bulky. So they're like almost looking for that a little bit.
Sure.
What's another one?
I don't know. I feel like there's probably a lot, but I can't think of them off the top of my head.
Another one that Mind Pump just said on one of their episodes where I'm like, oh yeah, I got to remember this for myself too, is that when you're trying to build, it's probably not smart to think about getting smaller at the same time. Like that's literally what it's like. You're trying to get bigger and smaller simultaneously.
Yeah.
Meaning like if you're trying to put on size, or you're trying to like as in muscle, and you're trying to build out a body part, or you're trying to get stronger, that's not going to be the time that you're also going to focus on losing weight.
Yeah. Losing
like
body
you
fat
can't
percentage.
you can get stronger and build as you're losing weight, but it's not something that you should focus on because you're not really going to see that happen. It'll be more of a adverse effect of your metabolism is increasing. So your connection to your skin and your muscles will happen. So you're going to get the tighter look, but you also need to fuel and eat to build that. You might be upping your calories.
Yeah, that's really the tricky part, is as you're trying to build muscle, your appetite starts to probably go up. And for you wanting to build muscle and maintain that, you're probably going to have to eat a little bit more, to where then, like, if you're trying to lose body fat percentage and or lose weight ultimately, it's not that your exercises would change, but it's more so your diet would change. Your food would change around that.
Okay, next topic that they put is mental health and exercise. The thing I'm going to bring up with this is the new thing that I learned about creatine, because I thought that was very cool and interesting, where, again, Mind Pump, they were talking about also, now that we're at a new gym and we're both running 2 separate programs, we're not working out together. So one, I do like the music that the gym plays. So if I don't really feel like wearing headphones, I still can listen to something good. But I'm also getting back into listening to podcasts more, which I enjoy. To where when we were traveling and I was working out by myself, I was doing that. But then when we're home, I don't do that. But they were talking about how, I mean, creatine just is the most studied thing anyways, but now the connection to your mental abilities, that it will help you focus. It also reduces or like reverses the effect of when you get lack of sleep.
Yeah.
So like for people that maybe have weird hours or people that are new parents and maybe not sleeping very much, creatine could be something that you implement heavily to reverse the effects of that, as well as if you're having feelings of depression, that it has been studied now to at like 20, is it 20 grams?
Yeah.
20 grams is, which is kind of a lot. Like ours, the dosage is 5.
Yeah,
so like you'd have to have
5.
a few more servings than maybe what it suggests to have the brain effects to it. I think it's like 10 and below, you can still notice the recovery aspect of it physically, but the mental capacity is the 20 and above.
Yeah, brain function stuff is around the 20, and then the muscular recovery, all that kind of stuff is still
You
stays
can
the
have
same.
much lower. And it's a cheaper supplement.
Yeah, compared to
Which is
to
cool.
everything else.
And, I mean, especially compared to, I mean, I don't know, but my guess with medication, if you're getting it from a doctor, like a antidepressant, my guess is creatine would be cheap. I don't know. I guess my guess would be creatine would be cheaper.
I don't know, with insurance and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I guess
But
I'm not sure.
to my feeling or brain about that though is like, I'd rather take a supplement that's been studied for a long time and a lot versus an antidepressant that we tend to don't know a whole lot about, and it seems like every mass shooter is on them. So you know.
That's what I've been telling the students now. Like anytime they do something that I hate and they need to stop doing it. I mean, I started doing this with the little kids, but now I'm bringing it to the older ones. And I'll just like scream into my hand. And I'm like, okay, if you do this, what am I going to do? And they all go, you guys are middle schoolers. That's not cool to do. But, the brand that we get is Naked. That's the brand, right?
Yeah.
Naked creatine. So if you're wanting like less brain fog, sharper focus, having maybe weird sleep schedules,
Could help with that.
Help
with it by dosing to 20 grams.
Correct.
If you get it
Correct.
and only take 5 grams, you might not have the brain function stuff.
And
unless you're extremely depleted, which could be the case, but
I haven't noticed this because I've been upping it a little bit. Some people do have
gut
problems with it. So if you're noticing some weird funky stuff, maybe do it sporadically throughout the day. That's what I've been doing. So maybe that's why I'm not noticing any issues. Maybe don't take 20 grams or grams at once. You could maybe
and with all that
it.
kind of stuff, it's like vitamins too. It's like, don't take supplements on empty stomachs. It just doesn't seem to work for a lot of people. That it could just be that too, like taking the creatine after you have a meal. I mean, even that, it's like if you do breakfast, lunch, dinner, you could do a scoop of creatine after each one of those, and that's 15 grams right there.
Yeah.
So then you just have to find another place to put 5 grams. But yeah.
Do you have anything to say on the mental health exercise?
I think it's one of those things that's like, anecdotally and studied wise, it's just shown to help mental health by exercising. So we kind of have both sides of the spectrum there, that it's kind of like, it's just good for you and will help. So why not do it?
Yeah.
Everybody that works out tends to say that, and they don't have to look at a study. And then the people who have studied it are showing and seeing that that is true and that's the case. So it's like there's not a lot of debate on that.
Yeah. Well, and
it's not going to like make you not depressed anymore. There's probably something larger, but it's going to maybe help your ability to figure that stuff out for yourself. It's like it's going to help, but there's a variance of how much.
Well, and again, mind pump. There was a guy that they were talking to where he went from 500 pounds or over 500 pounds to around 300 pounds. And he's like, people listening will be like, okay, holy shit, you're still 300 pounds. That's crazy. Like, that's bad. But he's like, people aren't talking about it enough where it's not related to like your health markers or even looks. He's like, the quality of life is what is like continuing to push him. He's like, I could barely walk from my living room to my kitchen without being out of breath and needing to sit down. He's like, now I'm going on walks and now I'm able to go on hikes. So now I'm able to go on vacations. He's like, I wasn't able to go on vacations because I wasn't able to move around or get up off of my couch. He couldn't go to the bathroom without using a walker. He's like, yeah, it's great to be strong and know this, but your quality of life completely changes. That even if you're not 300 pounds, you're 500 pounds, you're just a little bit overweight. It's like you maybe don't realize your lack of health and how it's hindering your life until you clean that up a little bit. That even to have that be your driver of like, you could be living what you're living now, but just better.
Yeah, totally.
That's going to make you happy.
Well, and like minimal tasks that seem to weigh on you and destroy your brain. It's like if you go do a workout, those minimal tasks now don't maybe seem as large. I feel like that's what I've noticed.
Next one, nutrition for performance versus weight loss. Do you think there's a difference? And maybe even, because like what we talked about, if I'm maybe going to do a blog for a certain dance company, the difference between eating and nutrition for performance versus just the regular gym goer, if there's a difference to you.
Yeah, I think there is. I mean, especially for performance, like those people are tending to work out much harder, so they need more fuel. And a lot of the times that is fueled best by carbohydrates. So the people who are performance people and are wanting more out of their performance, they should probably have more carbohydrates than somebody who is, you know, maybe losing weight or the average gym goer or whatever, because their body's requiring more and carbohydrates tend to fuel them the best. And then the same with protein, I would say. Like the people that are performance based should probably have higher protein levels because again, they're doing a lot more intensity and a lot more exercising and volume and all of that in general. They're requiring their body to do a lot more, that they will especially need their protein levels to be on par with whatever it is that they've maybe figured out, whether it's a gram per pound of body weight or it's 1.2 or 2 or whatever, to where people that are trying to lose weight or just the average gym goer, like they will probably be fine at like 0.7 and they'll be able to get the results and get the stuff that they want out of it. So I think it mostly comes down to like the difference in intensity for each person, and those performance people, they need carbohydrates and they need protein. I mean, they talk about it and you see it in the UFC, like there's vegan UFC fighters and they just don't tend to perform as well if they've switched to that or once they go to that, they just don't. And it's the same with athletes. They just don't. It's not sustainable. It's not longevity. They might feel better, like cognitively, or even maybe like less aches and pains and that sort of thing. But when they call upon their body to do the difficult things, it just doesn't have the fuel and doesn't have the built up muscle and everything to be able to perform the way they want to. So yeah, that's what I'd say between those two.
I think and this is just a different tangent to go upon. This is not what I'm going to bring up, but I think the fueling your body as an athlete is so essential not even, I mean, for the physical performance, but their mental capacity. Like athletes, or I think of like my experience with dancers, the endurance that your mind has to have is crazy. Like your ability to pick up new information, your ability to withstand with that information, like act upon it. There's not a lot of things as an adult that I think translate to how sports is, or like my experience with dance. There's nothing that compares to that level of speed you have to have, that I can see when kids come into my class and they are not eating properly. Like they fade so fast, or they'll go in these spikes where they can focus and they can learn for a little bit and then they crash, and they can focus and they learn a little bit and then they crash. And over time, those kids just don't improve because they're fighting their body versus fueling their body to learn and be able to withstand with what they're pushing to do. Because you also have that mindset of someone that likes to push it and strive for things because you are in that sport, that usually what happens then is those kids get injured more, they get fatigued quicker, and they don't learn the information to the depths because there's that, I mean, I'm speaking from me as a child, like you're pushing your body to go farther and you're giving it less and less and asking it to do more and more. So the fueling, I think of that is very underrated. But then what I was going to say with the eating for the weight loss, I have noticed even with myself, I think it's easier to up your activity to then signal those hunger cues versus trying to change the diet first. I think you should have your activity, and I'm just whipping it out there, whether this is a smart thing to do or not. I like it to have the activity show what I need to be eating. So when I increase the workout, I want my hunger to match that for a long time, I wasn't getting those hunger cues. And then when I go to get those hunger cues, eating things that are not going to fuel more bad behavior. Like I know when I eat more carby things, I want more treats. Mm-hmm. So paying attention to that of, okay, I'm noticing hunger cues are coming up, choosing maybe more protein dense items that are not going to just fill me up, because my brain, it's going to give me different signals for wanting different things then after that.
Yeah, you would choose more protein dense things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you find what's working for you, because there's been plenty of studies too about the best diet for weight loss, and they're pretty much all equal, whether it's low carbohydrate or low fat. There isn't a discrepancy between the two as far as like which one loses weight better, but what is going to be most effective for you? If it's you, like, yeah, not doing a low fat and regular carbohydrate one, because you're just going to want to continue to consume more food and want more treats, and then you're having to deal with that. To where for you, if you cut out carbohydrates and you have a higher fat diet, you're not getting those cravings. Mm-hmm. So then that is putting you in a position to where you can lose the weight easier. So I think figuring that out for yourself of where you're at, because you might be somebody that if you're not eating enough fat, like you have a lot of issues, whether it's hunger cravings, I don't know, anger issues, whatever it could be. Like you got to figure out which one's best and then go with that. But according to the studies, it's not like there's a best diet to lose weight. It's just picking one that is something that you will continue to do and stick to. Mm-hmm. That's all that it really comes down to.
Okay, and then the last one that's going to kind of bounce off of that is, what is the best way to be consistent for long term in someone's fitness journey or goal?
This is a hard one because I feel like people work differently. Mm-hmm. I think there's a certain group of people that need to dive in head first. Like I feel like the analogy is you're either the person that jumps right in the pool or you're the person that has to ease themselves in. And I think trying to figure out which type of person you are with that
Can
is
you
a good
explain
place
that?
to start.
Like an example of what would be either side of those?
I mean, for some people, it's like your dad's a great example. When he's worked out consistently for so long, but it was his diet and his food that was not hitting the mark. And for him, it was like, nope, I'm just going to be done. So he just like stopped having carbohydrates. And that was the way that worked best for him. I feel like he's probably like you, where if he has a little bit, now he just wants more and more and more. That's just my guess. But he just cold turkey jumped right in the pool, and like doesn't really have issues with that stuff at all anymore. He'll have something every now and again, a cheat meal, but then he's back to his thing because it's like very clear, direct rules that he set for himself of, no, I'm not having this. And that's super easy to follow. But then for some people, I feel like, especially when it comes to going to the gym and working out, more so than the diet part of it, they need that, like, I'm going to go 1 day a week, get my body used to just exercising and working out, and then over time, maybe increasing the duration I'm there, or how many exercises I'm able to do, or how many sets, adding a couple days or adding 1 day, or some people need to just start with a 10-minute walk, and then they just start doing 10-minute walks, and then that becomes regular. Now, okay, well, maybe push it to 15 or 20, or maybe I'll start doing a little bit of resistance training somewhere. They need this slow snowball progression. And I guess the same thing goes to diet as well. I just don't feel like in my experience I've seen that work a lot, the diet part of it, where people slowly try to transition their diet to something else because these cravings are so strong for people, and it's like we know how good that food tastes, and that always is there, and it's like you have the knowledge of it, so it's always something sitting there that I feel like if you're kind of tempting fate all the time by, I don't know, like I eat mostly clean, but I have like a muffin for breakfast, and that's like my fun thing. I feel like that muffin ends up becoming chips in the afternoon, and
Yeah.
then some popcorn at night, and it just continues to become more and more processed food and more stuff, and then before you know it, you're consuming way more calories than you thought you were. So I think the diet thing, from my point of view, I've just seen it work best when you make very clean cut rules and you stick to them, and you don't mess with like what your cravings are on that stuff. You just go, nope, I'm eating whole natural foods, meat sources of protein, and that's basically all I'm going to consume. That is all I'm going to consume. It's very clear and direct. The fitness part of it, I feel like I have seen success of people start small, build to more, and they can get there, because I think your body also doesn't really allow you to jump in the pool a lot of the time.
I think majority of people should start slow that way. It's going to be the less sexy way to do it, and that's what I was going to say next was, how do you decipher which version you are? But it's like, which one do you last longer with? Like, and this is going to have to force you to observe yourself a little bit in all spectrums, but are you a type of person that jumps into things? Are you a type of person that jumps into work, relationships? If it is fitness, do you jump in all in and then, now the sparkle is worn off?
Yeah.
So now I go half the time, where I go when I want, or you go hard in the paint and then you go meh, and then you go hard in the paint and then you meh. That might be your cue to, okay, I need to start slow and create a habit around this, so that whatever's happening in life, I can maintain this and it becomes a non-negotiable. Or are you someone that you're like, if I don't go all in, like, I don't really care enough.
Totally.
To where, like, I feel like you're like that.
Yeah.
Like, you need to be all in, otherwise it's
and
whatever,
then
but you'll stay with it.
But you have to figure out a way to manage that then, because people get too, like you said, they go all in, and then after a month or whatever, they kind of just peter out. You have to try to figure out like the warning signs that start to come of you maybe falling apart, and you gotta figure out like little tricks or something that is going to continue to keep that behavior going. And maybe it's like you literally did go too many. You went, I'm going 6 days a week, and it's like, okay, maybe just reduce to 5, and that is a fine intensity for you. Or maybe it's changing the workouts up. Like after a month, maybe you're bored and it just is down to boredom. Okay, switch your workouts, do something different to bring back that enthusiasm. But I think there's a way to be able to manage that. It's just you have to figure out how to manage that, and what are the reasons why you're giving up on it and quitting and not doing it anymore. Is it, I don't know, like what is it for you, and having to figure that out and then adjust things so that you don't do it. Because yeah, if you told me like, all right, we're going to start working out again, like we're going to go 1 day a week, I'd be like, I feel like I'm not getting anything done and doing anything. And logically, I know I am, but I don't know, you just feel like you have a certain level that you can give to this and do, and you're not meeting that. So you feel like you're not doing as much as you should be doing or could be doing. So I think for those people, it's like, give what you think you should be giving, but figure out how to manage that so you don't burn out and end up quitting. And it could just be reduce the workouts just a little bit. Like you don't have to do your 1.5 hour HIIT workout. It's like just do an hour or something. But that's hard because for the individual, it's going to be different reasons, different things for different reasons.
I think that's two different prototypes of people. Some people, same people so many times. Some individuals like intensity, and that's what fuels them to keep going. Like there's a romantic element to that of like they like how crazy it is and the pressure of it, maybe, that other individuals, the pressure and the intensity scares them to not do it.
Yeah.
And I think, again, you have to observe yourself of, do you do those things across the board? Think of like major elements of your life. And again, I go to like work, relationships, and your health. Are you, as soon as it gets intense, I back out because like it freaks me out? Or are you like, I need it to be intense to even care? Mm-hmm. Play with that then. Like maybe you don't run away or try to change that behavior, but just dial into that and go, okay, I'm someone that likes it intense. We're going to make everything intense. I'm someone that gets scared. Okay, I'm going to give myself more grace and figure out a way to like slow roll this into a discipline.
Yeah, because I think people work at certain speeds, and to tell them that they need to change the speed that they're working at, it just doesn't fit right. It just doesn't feel natural. And I think it needs to be a progression of getting you to a position or at a speed that you can maintain and can continue to do. Because it's like you have the person that maybe likes to slow roll it, and it's like they go 1 day a week or 2 days a week. They need to like slowly pick the speed up, and they're the person that's going to be hard to do that with. They want to stay at their 1 or 2 days a week, but they're not maybe getting the results that they want anymore and whatever, but they'll continue to go 1 or 2 days a week and just go on the elliptical for 30 minutes. It's like, we need to pick up your speed a little bit. And then you have the people that are going at a 10 out of 10 speed, and it's like, you're going to burn out in 3 weeks. Yeah. So it's like, we need to bring your speed down to like an 8. So it'll still feel fast. It'll still feel quick, not as hardcore as you could go, but now we can get you to string together months and years and whatever. But it's like working with that person of, you like this intensity and this kind of speed, we can do that, but we got to figure out the ways that keep you coming and keep you going.
Yeah, I like that.
All right.
See you later.